What's the one thing that every Democrat said in every postmortem after the election? It was that Democrats suck at messaging. Like, we're terrible at it. We're not breaking through to the average American, not breaking through to people that don't watch MSNBC, only preaching to the same repetitive focus group over and over and over again that's just telling us exactly what we want to hear because probably there is some money involved. I feel like there was a consensus to go against the establishment Democrat, to try something new, to look at the right wing and say, hey, you guys are doing something right. You guys figured something out. You figured out how to bring politics outside of the political sphere, how to get people that are just listening to gym content, to lifestyle content, to nutritional content, you name it, all of these different pipelines that lead down to Trumpism. Whether you're a crypto bro, a finance guy, a pull yourself up by your bootstraps immigrant, a billionaire, a working class guy that just got fooled by the misinformation out there in the public, all of these people, all of them could have easily been grabbed by the Democratic Party had there been better messaging, had there been more reach, had we gotten more of an audience. And so in response to that, what would be the logical thing to do? It would probably be to go out of your way to go into these alternate spheres to make sure that your voice is being heard in spite of the echo chambers, to break through in this attention economy that we're all living in. It just never ceases to baffle me how nothing will ever be good enough for Democrats. Nothing will ever be good enough to the left. Okay, you have Gavin Newsom doing everything that I just laid out. I'm not even a Gavin Newsom lover, okay? I'm very neutral about the guy. But he's launching a podcast. He launches a podcast to change the conversation following the election.
We need to change the conversation. And that's why I'm launching a new podcast. And this is going to be anything but the ordinary politician podcast. I'm going to be talking to people directly that I disagree with, as well as people I look up to. But more important than anything else, I'll be talking directly with you, the listener. Real conversations. What's going on with the cost of eggs? What are the impacts, real impacts to you around tariffs? What power does an executive order really have? And what's really going on inside of Doge? Look, there's an onslaught of information that we take in. So let's take it to the sources without the typical political mumbo jumbo. In the first few weeks, we're going to be sitting down with some of the biggest leaders and architects in the MAGA movement. This is Gavin Newsom.
I honestly think that this is everything right. I think that this is everything that we need from a politician. AOC's Instagram lives do so well because she's engaging with people, because she's talking directly to people. She's building a repertoire. She's engaging and building an audience and a relationship, and she's branding, and that's so important in politics. For the first episode of the Gavin Newsom podcast, the This is Gavin Newsom podcast, he had Charlie Kirk on. And Charlie Kirk looks like he wants to kill himself a little bit. It wasn't that insufferable of a conversation. Is it very lighthearted given the current state of the political and economic state of the world? Yes, but that's what it's supposed to be. That's exactly what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be lowering the temperature on the political discourse, on engaging with people that are across the aisle, that are demonizing you and calling you all of these ridiculous names and straw manning your arguments nonstop, creating caricatures that are just completely false and not being refuted by anyone. Similarly to engaging with someone in a cult or an abusive relationship, which is how I personally look at it, you have to be very gentle. You can't just come in a very hostile way and just very accusatory. You can't just break their entire worldview and shatter it in the span of an hour and 11 minutes. That's not possible. You're not going to do that. And so I understand the purpose of not aiming to do that, and instead just aiming to just get open dialogue out there, just get some things on the record, just to clarify specifics. Personally, I love the fact that he had Charlie Kirk on first, because Turning Point USA is a phenomenon to me. Like, I'm astounded by it as someone who took an intro level marketing and branding course in college. It's such good branding. It's such a good model. It's crazy. So I understand why Gavin Newsom wanted to interview him about it.
I think you talked about it the other day. A lot of folks were talking about that Carville article where he talked about
roll over and play dead.
Roll over. In essence, he said that. I think it was a strategic retreat, right? That we need to come back. Trump's starting to implode. His numbers are getting soft. And this was even before the tariff issues, et cetera. And then come back and strike when hot. And I immediately, no BS, thought about you, who's just 24/7 flooding the zone, owning this space, every day getting a convert, every day picking up 1, 2, 10,000 folks, continuing the momentum, coming out of this damn election. And then I'm thinking about, we're going to stand back and watch you run circles around us for 6 months, the next 2 or 3 years, waiting for the moment to finally strike. Struck me as not necessarily the best advice, and it's not a knock on Carville, who I have deep respect for. What's your thoughts?
That's okay. So I don't have to. He's read about one thing in the last 40 years. It's economy stupid, and boy, he spent down that one line pretty amazingly. Yeah, I hope you guys retreat.
You kind of like the
more
advice.
For us. There's no opposition. There's no activist spark. You guys are posting these cringe videos on social media.
What are the videos? What are the ones that
I don't know.
This
cringy? Like harmonious thing of like 22 senators all saying the same thing.
You didn't like that, yeah.
I didn't like it. Go ahead. Go do more of that.
What do you do?
Please.
What do you do? Seriously, Charlie Kirk, give us some advice.
Get better ideas, Governor.
That's so funny. Not gonna lie. Does it make Gavin look a little silly? Does he look the most professional? Does he look the most presidential? I don't know. These are all debatable questions, but am I glad that at least someone in the Democratic Party is taking steps to acknowledge? So first of all, just the step of acknowledgement that the right is doing something right here in their messaging, in their marketing, in the way that they are appealing to people, but also taking that extra step to go out and ask them, like, how are you doing this? What are you doing? Not that we're gonna, copy and paste all of their strategies or anything, but it couldn't hurt. Obviously, they're doing something right. The second episode of the podcast that Gavin Newsom did was with Steve Bannon. And this was just the perfect lineup, in my opinion. I don't know, going to someone who is versed in the action of messaging versus someone who's versed in the action of action and of creating action for messaging. They worked in tandem. Steve Bannon in the White House was flooding the zone, was telling Donald Trump to do all of these crazy things, to put out all of these crazy tweets, to just put out all of this bullshit so that everything is just a fart in a hurricane, right? Then Charlie Kirk on the other side of that is sifting through everything, finding what's going to piss off the people on the left the most, what's going to get the most viral clips, what's going to piss off the college students the most, and amplifying that and making it so that whatever Donald Trump is doing just looks so phenomenally perfect outside of all of the flooding the zone bullshit that Steve Bannon. It's not 4D chess. Nothing that Donald Trump does is 4D chess. He's too idiotic to do 4D chess. But the Republican messaging strategy, the conservative messaging strategy, there is definitely something to be studied there.
At Treasury, I think you're seeing a very smart analysis about M&A and about the oligarchs. I think, look, President Trump's working through this right now.
Elon was there before, after he dumped DeSantis. And forgive me, but what's his end game? I mean, I know look, he wants to be the first trillionaire in the world. I mean, what's his end game here?
Well, you guys, you created him a governor. I mean, you
by
guys. By
the way, in many respects, California did. It was our regulatory process and our subsidies to create this market. You're 100% right. I think you're right about that.
He left Canada to come to California. That was he's South Africa.
And then a big check from the federal government, from everybody watching, that backed his play early on when he was in deep need. He paid it back relatively quickly, but he's been the beneficiary of billions and billions and billions of dollars continues
loans,
of subsidies.
38 loans.
That's
I think
$38. You seriously want him to take over the Starlink, to take over the FAA and the air traffic control system?
Here's
the hell is that?
What he's trying to do is get the waste, fraud, and abuse and identified. I think people are going to, eventually need more details. I think he said he's going to provide more details. They just went to federal court.
Steve, I love that you're defending him now. By the way, he's been pretty soft on you.
Hang on. I'm not.
He hasn't attacked you back, which is interesting to me. He's marginally attacked you back. I'm curious your private thoughts on that. Why do you think he's a little scared of you, isn't he?
No, I don't think Elon's.
I think he is a little bit. That's my personal opinion.
I love the environment. Like, it feels good. It doesn't feel like we're suffering a constitutional attack by a fascistic dictator which might be colluding with foreign adversaries to overthrow the government and Western liberal democracy. Like, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like maybe we could just argue about difference in tax policy. And, like, I hope that we can get back to that as a society eventually. I appreciate that Gavin Newsom is doing this. Okay, this tweet says, I will be voting for a candidate in Democratic primary who doesn't promote Charlie Kirk. Fine and dandy, great for you. I'm sure that there is a demographic of people that will not support a Democratic candidate that promotes Charlie Kirk. I'm also sure that in 4 years, in 3 years, whenever the Democratic primary season starts, so much bullshit will have happened in between now and then that probably maybe no one will have even remembered that this was even a thing to begin with. But yeah, sure. Let's make definitive statements about our stances on the Democratic primary now. They replied, this should be a no-brainer for Democrats, to which someone replied, this way of thinking, condemning a fellow Democrat for daring to speak with someone who clearly had an opposing view and reaching across the aisle, that's what got Trump elected, and continuing down this path will get Vance elected next. Which I agree with. A lot of things got Donald Trump elected, but certainly a contributor is the fact that no one was engaging with anyone. And the people that were engaging weren't advocating well enough, okay? I think you had Anna Kasparian going on maybe like the PBD podcast, and then she did her right-wing tilt. Like, I don't who in the left-wing sphere did we have that was genuinely engaging with anyone on the right, let alone a public official? Like, I'm just thinking of like any pundits. No one. Art Candy says you're operating under a false assumption. Charlie Kirk isn't an honest actor. Gavin Newsom giving him oxygen was a mistake. I disagree with this entirely, okay? I don't think that these are mutually exclusive things. I think that you can agree that Charlie Kirk is probably being paid for by someone, probably Donald Trump, honestly. If you listen to his his praising of him in the interview, he says it's like obligatory. Like, no, I have to give credit to Donald Trump.
Last night, trying to put my son to bed, he's like, no, Dad, what time's Charlie gonna be here? What time? And I'm like, dude, you're in school tomorrow. He's 13. He's like, no, this morning, wakes up at 6 something. He's like, I'm coming. I'm like, he literally would not leave the house.
Did you let him take off school?
No, he did. Of course not. He's not here for a good reason. But the point is,
you canceled school for like 2 years. One day.
The point is the point, which is you are making a damn dent.
Thank you. I'm kidding.
When you go to these college campuses, I love watching your TikTok, which is next level. And clearly, that's expressed by my 13-year-old son.
I want to meet this guy.
Yeah, I actually.
He's coming to a Turning Point event this summer, Tampa, Florida, Student Action Summit.
I actually am by the way, if you
should be concerned.
But let me say, here is why I'm concerned, because you have expressed that I should be concerned as a Democrat, that we're getting clobbered.
Okay. Yes.
That you've figured something out.
It's not me. The president first deserves the credit.
But why? No, hold on. You were at this before Trump was Trump.
I know, but he
was a Democrat back in 2011 and 12.
The president deserves huge credit. And I just have to say that as an obligatory thing, because without him, our movement would be small. And you can appreciate that in politics. You have to appreciate the person who is the catalyst.
For you, that's what you sort of attached an identity.
You can appreciate that in politics. You have to appreciate the person that gave you everything. Like, what is this? Giving tribute to the king? I feel like that's the takeaway from this clip. But no, the takeaway from this clip, the person tweeted, if I was Gavin Newsom, I simply would not have admitted willingly that my son is obsessed with Charlie Kirk. Which I think is just completely missing the point. The point isn't that there's some weird underlying right-wing ideology in Gavin Newsom, which is what this tweet is suggesting. Well, we should all pay more attention to the fact that Gavin Newsom's son is only 12 and already loves Charlie Kirk. Dude, the call is coming from inside the house and you are not addressing the issue. It's not cute for your tweener son to love Nazis. This will not end well. This is the rhetoric that is destroying the left. I'm not saying that what he's saying is wrong. I'm saying the way that he's saying it is ineffective in communicating with the other side, which at the end of the day, I feel like is the whole point of all of this, is to communicate with the other. None of this is worth anything if it just all flips back and forth. The only way that change actually matters, is actually substantial, is if it lasts. And the only way that it's able to last is if it's done in a nonpartisan, correct, fair way. The majority of the average public, of the general public, does not know that Charlie Kirk is a Nazi. does not think that Charlie Kirk is a Nazi. Thinks that the word Nazi has such heavy baggage and rhetoric. Why would you even introduce that into a casual tweet, a casual conversation? Like, you're crazy for even bringing it up, for even going there. The point isn't that Charlie Kirk's son is secretly turning into a right-wing white supremacist that believes in like great replacement theory, right? The point is that Charlie Kirk's son is only Gavin Newsom's son is only 12 and is already exposed to politics. My sister's 12 and she doesn't, like, the only politics that she knows is from me, and she's not interested in it in any way, shape, or form. Like, I'm gonna sit there and talk to her about, like, I don't even know what. But Charlie Kirk is appealing to a broader audience because it's not directly politics. It's like a cool type of like back of the classroom vibe. Like, I'm cool, I didn't go to college, and you could do stuff like this, and owning the libs, and we can be mean and saying retard is cool. Like, what? Like,
I am very happy that I spent my childhood with more adults than I did with kids my own age, because I was picking up more things from adults than I were from kids my own age. Mm-hmm. And I look, and I go around sometimes and I hang out with other people that are my age, and they're just kind of just selfie. I'm just like, dude, like, oh my God, like, can we talk about like the political and economic state of the world right now? Mm-hmm. Can we talk about what's going on with the environment? Can we talk about other things? And don't worry, I like to turn up, I like to flex, I like to play songs.
It's just me. This is just me every day. Can we just talk about the political and economic state of the world? Obviously, it's not working though, and obviously we need to do like the whole bro. So maybe Charlie Kirk can help with that. Maybe Gavin Newsom isn't being some type of right-wing, secret Nazi, democratic betrayal, treasonous, like, oh my God, all of this is so brain dead. Like, this is just, let the guy have a conversation. Also, this isn't gonna matter in the Democratic primary, dude. We have 4 more years.